The hijab is a veil worn by Muslim women in the presence of adult males outside their family. Some Islamic systems insist on it as per the Quran's guidelines of a modest dress code. Others say the Quran itself does not mandate the hijab. Either way, it makes little difference to the women. The decision isn't theirs, the choice isn't theirs. Neither in the so-called patriarchal oppressive societies that enforce fatwas, nor in the so-called progressive pro-choice ones where it is banned as a symbol of political identity. Why are we talking about it tonight? Two events in the last 24 hours have made the hijab an international headline. The European top court authorizing companies to ban the hijab that could alienate immigrants further and push women out of the workforce. And the Punjab government in Pakistan making it compulsory for college girls. On Gravitas tonight, we look at the larger implications. We unveil the politics of the hijab. I'm Palki Sharma Upadhyay. The headlines first. Who will Holland pick? Voters cast ballots in an election where the anti-Islam leader Wilders could finish on top. How far will they go? Turkey accuses Holland of state-sponsored terror as a deepening diplomatic row threatens to divide NATO. Who says Trump is anti-Muslim? Saudi Arabia's deputy crown prince Mohammed Salman calls him a true friend of Muslims after meeting the US president. Who wants a trade war? Not us, says China, as Premier Li Keqiang warns that American companies will bear the brunt. Who will blink first? The European Council says it won't be intimidated by threats from London about Brexit with no deal. And how will India react? Pakistan set to declare the Indian territory of Gilgit-Baltistan as its 5th province. When will the bloodshed end? Twin blasts in Damascus leave more than 25 people dead, dozens others injured. Banning the hijab from the workplace is not direct discrimination. This ruling from Europe's top court has awakened the deepest fears of the continent's Muslims. Many fear that hate crimes against them will increase. Others feel that women will be forced to quit jobs and immigrants will be further alienated. WION brings you a special report.
These are troubling times for Europe's Muslims. Tuesday's ruling by the European Court of Justice allowing private firms to forbid staff from wearing the hijab or Islamic headscarves under certain conditions has set off a storm of complaints from rights groups and religious leaders.
Yes,
we are deeply disappointed. You have to leave a certain amount of room for people to dress as they please and for their own reasons. It will contribute to uncertainty, and for some employers, it could be an excuse to prevent some women from carrying out their professions. With this as a reason.
Ethnic Turks living in Germany described the ruling as discriminatory. They said it would make things worse for Muslims all over Europe.
If I had a colleague who wore a cross as a necklace, I wouldn't have a problem with it. So I think it's discriminating and unnecessary because my headscarf doesn't stop me doing my job in any way. So I do find it discriminating.
I don't think it's a good thing because everybody is free to decide what they wear and how they wear it at the place of work. And to just hand out general bans doesn't help. It just makes things worse.
In Holland, where the Islamophobic PPV, led by Geert Wilders, could emerge the single largest party in Wednesday's elections, Muslims say the headscarf ruling could fuel hate crimes against people of their religion.
The number of incidents against Muslims has increased enormously. Dozens of reports are made each year. And those are the incidents we know about. But what about the ones that are not reported? People who are too afraid to come forward.
Human rights group Amnesty International has warned that at a time when identity and appearance has become a political battleground, people need more protection from prejudice, not less. Bureau Report, WION.
Joining us tonight on Gravitas, Amina Murad, the religious scholar. With us from Islamabad, Mandy Clark, WION's bureau chief from London. We'll also be joined by Dr. Markus Pindur, federal correspondent of Deutschland Radio from Berlin, later on the show. Good evening to both of you. Amina, let me come to you first. When a court says that banning the hijab is not direct discrimination, what is your first reaction as someone who has endorsed the hijab?
Well, I do endorse hijab and I do wear hijab, and I think it is an open discrimination because as you see that the law is for all the political and religious symbols. But most apparent is that when you think of any ban, it comes towards Muslims, and then especially the Muslim women now are targeted against this hijab ban. So of course it's an open discrimination, I think, against the freedom that the countries in European Union they give to their people. And it's a multicultural society, and all sorts of people with all their freedom coexist there. So it's the right of every individual to decide what to wear and what not to wear as per their religious identity, because I feel that to assimilate in a society does not mean that you lose your identity. You are discriminated, you are alienated just because you have your own identity. So to me, this ban seems that it's an attack on my identity, which I want to keep as an individual, along with respecting all the legalities and all the laws of the society, of the country that I live in.
Right. Right. Mandy, these are sentiments which have been expressed by many people, what Amina is telling us tonight. The ECJ's decision has drawn sharp reactions from both sides. Are there fears that it is going to further divide an already fragmented European society?
Yes, and I think those fears are well-founded, because really the majority of European society are secular or they're Christian, where they don't really wear any symbols. This is disproportionately affecting minority populations, so Sikhs, Jews who wear the kippah, and of course Muslim women. And by and large, the main focus and the most alienated of these groups are Muslim women, and they have the most visible dress. So really, it is gonna, there's no question, it is gonna divide people, and it's alarmist, because it seems that the judges are sensing the sentiment of Europe at large, which is swinging more to this hard right, which is Islamophobic.
Right. Amina, help us understand, why is the hijab so important? It's not just a dress code anymore. It's a statement, many say. Why is it so important to wear your faith on your sleeve?
I think, I feel that the world is going towards spiritual loss. There is a crisis of spirituality in the world, and the world has moved so much towards secularism and materialism, which can be good in many ways. But since anybody who wants to get herself or himself empowered with his religious beliefs for the positive, they are being discouraged. So I think it's a war again between not only the religion and the politics, it also involves the spiritual being of a human against versus his physical identity. So I think the focus right now is on all about physical, because if somebody who is sexual, who is showing her identity through her physical being, is adored and it's giving, they are being identified and recognized in a positive way in the society. And people who want to respect the society, but without losing their spiritual empowerment, are being marginalized.
Right. Spirituality and religion, of course, are two different things. And it's very interesting that you club secularism with materialism, but you're entitled to your opinion, as we always say on the show. Mandy, how have women you've spoken to responded, especially Muslim women? Do they fear that more and more women will be pushed out of work? Do they fear that hate crimes will be on the rise, or are these sentiments exaggerated?
Well, it's hard to see these sentiments being exaggerated because, you know, just after Brexit, which was just a vote about being within the European Union, it wasn't necessarily about, you know, the amount of immigrants in the country, but that's what the conversation became, and we saw a massive spike in hate crimes in Britain, and they saw it, the vote. Many people who perpetuated this crime saw it as a carte blanche acceptance. It's allowing, you know, hate crimes. And the worry is there's, you know, far-right politicians have welcomed this ruling by these judges and said, you know, it's, you know, Europe reclaiming its identity. So it's the conversation is hijacked by the far-right groups, and that's where we see this spike in hate crime. So I think the concern is very real, and there's no doubt that people who will be affected the most by this will be Muslim women. They're already targeted quite a bit when it comes to hate crimes. When I spoke to an anti-hate crime campaigner, the vast majority of victims were women, and they were Muslim women who are wearing Islamic clothing. So it's likely that they will be targeted again. And you know, overall, these are women who are likely going to lose their jobs, not for committing a crime, not for doing anything wrong, simply by expressing their religious beliefs. And, you know, that I think is the major concern among rights groups on why these women are being targeted in the workplace.
So at a time when anti-immigration, anti-Islam sentiment is the election plank in many countries in Europe, Mandy, would it be fair to say that the top court has been swayed by this right-wing sentiment that's sweeping through the continent?
Certainly that's the perception. It's hard to see how they haven't been, because in the past, the European courts have always taken a far more leftist view, a far more human rights view, the rights of the individual. And many, certainly in Britain, accused the European courts of being more leftist. So certainly this is a total deviation of previous rulings, and it appears that they have been influenced by the movement of the right, because this is certainly stepping on the freedom of expression to express your religious beliefs.
Right. Mandy, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And Amina, I'd like you to stay with us. The hijab, we know, means different things to different women. From the controversial Nike video to the veiled Barbie dolls, it has kicked off a storm time and again. But what does this EU ban really mean to women, both personally and politically? We spoke to many of them. This is what they told us.
If I had a colleague who wore a cross as a necklace, I wouldn't have a problem with it. So I think it's discriminating and unnecessary because my headscarf doesn't stop me doing my job in any way. So I do find it discriminating.
I don't think it's a good thing because everybody is free to decide what they wear and how they wear it at the place of work. And to just hand out general bans doesn't help. It just makes things worse.
Right. Amina, how do you respond to the argument that in the interest of uniformity at workplace, secular societies may want to prevent people displaying religious symbols, and that is the spirit in which it should be taken?
Well, I think that if the religious symbols are not hampering the performance of the employees in any way, and if it's just the opinion of some people that they like or they don't like hijab, so why should women who are wearing hijab be deprived of their freedom? And in other instances, if you all see that not all the other employees are also wearing similar dress code. They're all wearing their own style of dress. So, and besides that, what is the majority of Muslim women? You have never seen a Muslim woman in a workplace doing any form of violence, or she is not performing to her optimal level, or she is in any way a barrier to the progress or development of the organization. In any case, if somebody is a deterrent to the organization, irrespective of wearing hijab or not, the company policy can, just throw that person out. But if the performance is satisfactory, if there is no other reason, it's just due to the biases of certain people. So if you go on that, so everybody has a right to have objection on the other person.
Absolutely.
So will you be throwing employees around just because some of your customers don't like them?
Right. Companies should judge individuals for their performance, not for what they wear, not for the religion they follow. That's the point you're making, and it's well taken. Amina, we are being joined by Dr. Marcus Pindur, federal correspondent of Deutschland Radio, joining us from Berlin. Good evening, Doctor. My first question to you is, do you agree with this ruling of Europe's top court?
It is a very, very restricted ruling, and it does not allow for a hijab ban, a specific hijab ban, that must be said. The court was very cautious to point out that individual freedom of expression is important and must not be violated. And it also added there are 3 conditions that must be fulfilled. It must be a general policy of a business that all employees must refrain from wearing all religious, philosophical, or political symbols. So a pure hijab ban would not be constitutional under European law, and the application of such a policy must be proportional. So only a business that has direct contact with customers, and people who are in direct contact with customers can implement such a policy. It cannot just target one specific religious, political, or philosophical group. And it must be in place before any kind of workplace conflict arises.
Right. It's interesting that neither the political leaders nor the court has come out to reassure the immigrant community on this and explain these salient points which you are mentioning. But Amina, is this reassuring, or is this just a fig leaf?
No, I think it is reassuring, because if, he said that women were in direct contact with customer relationship, so any company they can have their policy accordingly that they would not prefer anybody who is in hijab. So I think every organization has certain internal policies according to their business interest. In that capacity, if it is restricted and it is limited policy, so then I feel that it might not be as discriminatory as it is projected, and so that it goes, towards that.
Right. Of course, it's open to interpretation. Marcus, I want to ask you this. For many, many women, hijab is a part of their identity. To ban it for whoever, in whatever capacity, how can that not be discriminatory?
Because it is not, this court ruling is not addressing hijabs in specific.
But also includes hijabs. It also includes hijabs, right?
Yes, but the actual cases were about women wearing hijabs. The court ruling is about workplace religious neutrality. So what the court is saying is you cannot ban a hijab or any other sign of any other specific religion, but you can ban all religious symbols and signs out of your workplace, but that only under certain circumstances. The court was very cautious, I feel, to strike a balance between the right of expression for individuals, which is a European law, and the freedom of an entrepreneur to conduct his business as he sees fit. And so it's not directly targeted at the hijab. No, it includes the hijab, but it's not targeted at the hijab. That would be unconstitutional.
Right. But when you're interacting with customers, when you're interacting with someone outside, that would include probably people who run shops. One could think of various examples, but there are many, Dr. Marcus, who believe that a diktat like this, a ruling like this, is going to push many Muslim women out of jobs and is going to further divide an already divided society on religious lines.
It is hard to predict what the impact of that ruling would be. You're certain, and a lot of people have, especially on the left side, have expressed the feeling that this might be an impediment to women wearing hijabs to go into certain jobs. This is true, and there's an open debate, an ongoing debate about this. And you must see it is conducted in every country under different terms. And the European Court just ruled the basics, not the specifics. So every European country has to negotiate this on its own terms within the boundaries of that ruling. It's hard to say that it will have a general impact on all women wearing hijabs, because that is certainly a case that has to be negotiated in every business, and if there is a conflict, in court.
But more and more countries are going that way, would you agree? From the controversial ban on religious symbols in France to what we saw in Austria recently to a state in Germany, more and more countries are inclined to ban religious symbols which prominently include the hijab.
It depends on what you do. I mean, what you look at. The German Constitutional Court, for example, ruled in 2002 already that you cannot discriminate, that no one has the right not to be confronted with religious symbols in public. There is an ongoing debate. France, for example, has banned the burqa, not the hijab. In Germany, the hijab is basically allowed. There's not a problem with that. There are lots of women you see in German streets now wearing a hijab, so it's a common sight, and it's nothing that is overly controversial. This court ruling just addresses the right of an entrepreneur to conduct his business with political, philosophical, and religious neutrality, and that is the court ruling.
Right. Amina, the EU wants to, some countries in the European Union want to ban the hijab. Punjab in Pakistan wants to make it mandatory for college students. Has the hijab really been reduced to a political symbol of identity, not a dress anymore? Do women really have a choice when it comes to a hijab or a burqa?
In context of Pakistan, it's a totally different matter. But first of all, I would like to clarify that this law has not been passed. The minister had just given a suggestion, sure, and he has said that it's not converted into any law. And if we see in contextual frame, European Union cannot be compared with Pakistan, which is on its basis of ideology and its constitution is an Islamic country. And by law, the Sharia, which gives certain guidelines for the constitution to follow, but making anything compulsory for women to, everybody has to wear a certain code of hijab. I don't think that it has ever been made a part of the constitution, and I don't think it can be made, because as long as the covering of a woman is concerned, all Muslims agree upon that. So, but if you come to a certain law in Pakistan that all of them have to wear, for example, totally in an opposite context of European Union, that they have to cover their faces or they have to be in a certain dress code, I don't think that it would be politically or religiously correct.
Right. Dr. Marcus, my final question to you. Has the hijab, you think, become a political rallying point for some? Have Muslim women unwittingly, have they been caught in a political wave that really panders to nationalists?
You know, the overall debate about Islam and the role of Islamic symbols is ongoing and has been so for a couple of years. You're right. I don't think it is the big rallying cry for, you know, the Muslim women wearing hijabs. I think it's more a question that right-wing extremist parties all over Europe try to capitalize on. But overall, since you mentioned Pakistan, the European Union is not Pakistan. And as I said repeatedly, this is not about freedom of religion. That is guaranteed. You can have that. This is about workplace place neutrality, which is a different subject. Of course, you are allowed to express your religion wherever you want and however you want in Germany. You can even wear a burqa on the street. If you go into court, for example, you cannot wear a face scarf. You have to show your face for identity reasons. That is very obvious and quite necessary. Some states, some individual states in Germany have ruled that they do not want teachers wearing hijabs. Some allow for it. So it's an ongoing debate, but it's not a let's say a big kind of rallying cry.
Right. I know the European Union does not include Pakistan, and I was trying to draw parallels because neither in Pakistan nor in Paris, I believe women really have a choice. They have to follow diktats and rules which may be because of religious, political, ideological, whatever compulsions. That's the limited point I was making. But I want to thank you both, Amina Murad and Dr. Marcus Pindur, for joining us here on Gravitas this evening. We're going to take a very short break. When we come back, we'll talk about what's being called Pakistan's census without consensus. Welcome back. In most countries, census is a matter of procedure. In Pakistan, it's political, even historic. Starting today, the country is holding its first census in almost 2 decades. It's significant and controversial. Let's start with the numbers here. It's Pakistan's 6th census in its history, the first census in 19 years. 63 districts across the country will be covered in this. A whopping 300,000 officials are involved in this exercise. 55 million forms are being filled. The military itself has deployed around 200,000 men. WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Taha Siddiqui spoke to the men in charge.
Our assumption is that since if you are the enumerator at local level, you will be influenced by the local sardars, local headmen, local elders of the area, and you will not be in a position to resist from that pressure. So the only thing is that the army has a kind of neutral observer on that.
Now that we have a sense of the scale of this exercise, let's talk about why it's controversial. The census is the basis for judicious distribution of resources. It also redraws political power equations. The Pakistan government, we know, has dragged its feet for years on this and finally decided to conduct the census barely a year before the federal election. That's happening in 2018. But many questions still remain. For one, how will the census impact religious minorities in Pakistan who have reportedly been persecuted for years? The Hindus and Christians, how will it impact them? What about the Baloch resistance and charges of attempted manipulation in Balochistan? Will Afghan refugees, thousands of whom have settled in Pakistan, be given voting rights? If the almost 80 languages which are spoken in Pakistan, why are only 9 represented in this census? That's what many people are asking. How will electoral boundaries be redrawn after this? Some very important questions there, but for the people, it's a long-awaited event, and away from the socio-political implications, they are only thanking the army and the government for this concerted effort.
बहुत अच्छा है, ये आवाम के लिए बहुत अच्छे से हमारी नुमाइंदगी बढ़ेगी और जो आबादी जो शहरों में बढ़ चुकी है, इससे पता लगेगा कि भाई कितनी आबादी है इस इलाके में, ताकि अवामी नुमाइंदे जो है वो बढ़ेंगे।
20 साल के बाद हो रही है, 1997 के बाद अब हो रही है और ये अच्छा कदम है।
Not everyone is supportive, though. 30 school teachers, we can tell you, have reportedly been arrested in Balochistan for questioning the census. Many Balochis say it is an attempt to turn them into an ethnic minority in their own province. This two-phase census will end on the 25th of May. Joining us this evening, Taha Siddiqui, our Pakistan Bureau Chief. We also have with us on the phone line Zulfikar Halipota, researcher and member of the Census Committee of Sindh. Good evening to both of you. Mr. Halipota, to you first. Is this a census without consensus, sir?
I think census announcement of the exercise which has started today, that is welcomed by everyone here, because people can easily understand, as you showed some, I heard some comments on the exercise that there are a lot of pressure. We have population pressure here, that we have, there is a scarcity of resources, lot of unprecedented challenges are here for Pakistan, from climate change to migration. So it's a welcoming move. But as far as the relationship of federating units are concerned, I think there are concerns in Balochistan and Sindh, even in a slight bit of Punjab. The reason is that the institutional protection or safeguard mechanisms are so weak that people really don't trust the institutions, their exercises and their results. So this is the only concern, that people are of the view that there might be a manipulation in data, because we are a different case as compared to India. We are a federation. All four federating units were promised to have a control on political rule or their federating units political control in a sense of majority in assembly or right to rule. So Balochistan and Sindh feel threatened that if there is a exaggeration in the population, because a lot of influx of population is there, and Sindh from other parts of the provinces and other parts of the world. Balochistan has seen a lot of tremendous influx from Afghanistan and other tribal or Taliban areas. So there are concerns that they might manipulate the data, and the Balochis and Sindhis, they might be converted into minority.
What is the role of the army here, sir? 200,000 army men have been deployed. What is their role, and why is it being questioned and criticized by some?
Since Army's role is only to supervise the enumerator's role, and Army is the institution which people think that they are non-partisan and impartial. But as far as the ground realities are concerned, since I'm part of a very active census committee of nationalist parties of Sindh, the demography is so complex. We have very complex urban areas, thickly populated. We have very large spread rural areas, deserts, and other areas which are not known to army personnel. I mean, they will take a lot of time to understand the ground realities. So their role will be like people will see that some non-partisan system is there, and they are looking after the exercise. But the data will go to the technical people. They will go to the provincial, district managements, then to the Federal Bureau of Statistics. So their presence is fine, but the data will be dead by the federal authorities and some other authorities. So the fear starts from that point. And let me explain one more point. This exercise was basically started in 2011, and later it was postponed because the house count was so manipulated that everybody cried, and 2000 year was a census year for India too. I still remember there were census in 11 states, Bhopal and Odisha, Bihar, but there was no complaint by people that the Bihar is taking age over Odisha, or Odisha's population is taking control of UP or CP. It was because of the institutional guarantees or safeguard mechanisms are so transparent that people trust their institutions, and here we have a crisis that people still believe that institutions might manipulate things.
I couldn't agree more with that. Taha Siddiqui, the census comes barely a year before the federal election. Many are saying that the future of Punjab depends on this. A lot is being made out of it. Who stands to gain or lose politically with what the numbers might throw up?
Well, each province, the sort of setup is different. In the sense that, for example, Punjab, we know, is the main province and is the one that actually whoever wins Punjab wins the federation, sort of wins the seats in Islamabad, because it has the largest number of constituencies right now. So given that, so Punjab is feeling threatened in that way. Particularly, we do know that the ruling party right now is from Punjab, PMLN Nawaz, and he has a strong chance in the next elections. But if there are constituencies in other provinces, like for example Balochistan or Sindh increase, so then that power threatens in the federation makeup. Now within the provinces also there are problems, as earlier was mentioned here. For example, in Sindh there's an urban and rural divide, and the rural population is already sort of marginalized and not considered. Mainstream policies are not made for them. So in that way, the rural population thinks that, and many of them do not have ID cards, so they might be left out because ID card is a must. And so right now they were being done according to extrapolation, but then actual numbers. So then the constituencies might be redrawn in Sindh in that way. In Balochistan, for example, a lot of people have migrated out of the province, the Baloch ethnicity, especially because of the fears to their ethnicity. And because of that, in Balochistan, the Baloch also feel threatened that they might convert into a minority. So different provinces in KP, for example, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, the problem is of the Afghan refugees and the fact that many Afghan refugees have acquired Pakistani ID cards illegally, some legally, because of the weakness of the system and the corruption in the system. So then again, there also the makeup will change with the Afghan refugees. So all of this combined, so there are many questions being raised about how it will affect, and especially given the fact that it's only 1 year left for the elections. Right. Will political parties have enough time to sort of react to the changes that they will see in the next few months?
Right. 50% of resources and government jobs, according to some reports, went to Punjab over the past 3 decades, and that is what makes this census a politically charged affair. Zulfikar Halipota, I want to ask you, what does the census, how is it expected to impact the religious minorities, the Christians and Hindus in Punjab?
The census form, that is clear about the different identities. I mean, the procedure is quite clear. And but ultimately the question, as my friend raised before you take me online, I think this is again the issue of how the state polity is going to deal with these religious minorities, ethnic minorities, and when there is a distrust among federating units, if the majority people are not having trust on each other, so you can understand the vulnerability of minorities, vulnerable group, and especially the non-Muslim religious minorities. So they will be counted, but issues not their count. Issues there being mainstream in the decision-making process, in the policy-making process, or even being a first-rate citizen of Pakistan. So their mainstreaming is the fundamental question.
Right. My final question to you, Zulfikar Halipota. There are reports that lack of political will and delay in taking this decision affected preparedness. How much water do these charges hold, sir?
I mean, this exercise was long due, and we have been seeing throughout if we quote the recent past, from 2011 onwards, I think, as I said, systems are not too efficient to really address the current distrust issues or current complex realities. So the systems are really not up to the mark. So this is again a major concern that for example, the demography completely changed. If I go in any rural area, I can easily understand the situation was, it's absolutely changed what we have seen in 2005 or even 1995. So the systems are not ready to realize those realities. It's a mechanical exercise, and everybody, since we desperately need it, everybody is welcoming it. But I think our crises are beyond this exercise, and the systems are not really going to address the issue for which we are going to have this census exercise or even this kind of exercise.
Right. Taha, where do these figures leave the Pew Research report that was much talked about a few weeks back that said that by 2050, India is going to have the largest Muslim population? Will they have to perhaps relook at their numbers, given what Pakistan might show? It is already the 6th most populous country in the world.
Definitely. I mean, there might be some changes and re-looking at that work, because right now, since '98, Pakistan has been sort of extrapolating its population and saying it stands at a 200 million population right now. We saw, like, for example, when in Pakistan, when military operations happened and mass exodus happened from Swat Valley or from the tribal belt, the numbers that the government had and the figures that the government had for the estimation of the population in these areas, the figure was much higher in actual numbers when these migrations happened from these areas. So at that time also, some of the locals also talked about this. Some experts here talked about how what the government thinks is the actual number and what it is extrapolated are two different realities. And because of that, definitely, I mean, right now we say that Pakistan's population is 200 million at 200 million, but it could be much larger when the results come out, as we've seen with other similar cases.
Right. There are reports that 30 Baloch teachers have been arrested for opposing or questioning the census. There is also a fair bit of criticism or discomfort, if I may, over the army's role in this census. Are the people of Pakistan by and large convinced that the census will reflect the true picture of their demographic makeup?
Well, not everybody is happy with it, and that's why we saw these protests in Balochistan. There are some reservations in Sindh by mainstream political parties also. They have some reservations. And the fact is that I mean, there is this sort of the army's involvement gives it sort of an image that it is being monitored and it is going to be independent. But we know the army's history in the country, given the fact that it has done a lot of political interferences in the past, and it continues to operate in those sort of dynamics. So in that way, some people have also questioned the army's role. Even some of the observers that have come to Pakistan, international observers, some of them spoke to us about it, and they told us that army's involvement, that does not happen anywhere in the world, and the army is kept away from such activities and especially in a country where it already has vested interests. So in that sense, yes, there is some criticism, but again, because of the security concerns is what the government was forced to call in the military, because there are areas which are conflict zones and nobody besides the military can help the local enumerators to enter those areas. So it's a sort of a catch-22 situation, because they have to have them, but of course they will probably be influencing also, given their past sort of record.
Right. Taha Siddiqui, Zulfikar Halipota, I'm going to thank you both. Thank you for joining us this evening on Gravitas. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll talk about Donald Trump's tax details and the Dutch Donald Trump's election prospects. Don't go away.